Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido and today it is the Melemele Rumbles going up against the Laverre Constrictors, and this match was so close to being our champions game last season. So as they have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape between these two sides where the Rumbles are off to an extremely strong start, just like they did last season that led to them becoming the champions of Season A1. They want to continue that here, but the Constrictors want to capitalize on their type advantage. So with that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the fighting decks? Will it be the psychic decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And starting off, it is going to be that Cobble Breakers deck for the Rumbles, using that Metatite in the active spot, the Drifloon going into the active spot for the Constrictors Celestic Dream deck. Now the Constrictors are currently sitting in 9th place, but like we said, they want to try and capitalize on their type advantage to try and get themselves back into victory road, as there isn't much that the Constrictors, as the Rumbles can do at the moment, but they have played that Pokeball and they've drawn a Hitmonchan. So they've got the Marchop and the Hitmonchan in hand. As they are going first, they don't get to generate an energy, but they are going to put that Marchop on the bench and the Giant Cape onto the Metatite, and they do have that Metachamp who can run right if it gets the right coin flips in hand, as the Cynthia is pulled for the Constrictors, and they are going to play one of those two Professor's Research that they have in hands, and they get the Cresselia, they get the Togekiss, but they need the Togepi because they've already got the Togetic in hand, and that Cynthia with that Togekiss is an absolute powerhouse. They do put out that Cresselia onto the bench, and they're thinking of using the Giant Cape, but they are taking their time instead. They're going to get an energy onto the Drifloon so it can go for the Ram, and it is going to do 40 damage thanks to that weakness. That Metatite has one more of those, and Metatite will be off the board as the Marchoke is pulled for the Rumbles, but there is the Metacham now that will ensure that Drifloon cannot take Metacham off the board, but with one energy, all it needs to do is flip ahead. So the Marchoke is moved onto that benched Marchop as well, but this kick shot can do 80 damage. They just have to get the heads, and they get the tails. This is great for the Constrictors and this Celestic Dream deck, as they pull the Drifblim as well, and it's got that Balloon Strike. It does require a second energy, but before they use that, they're going to go with the Professor's Research, getting another 2 cards. They get another Togetic, they get another Togekiss as well, but they still need that Togepi, as the Drifblim is going to come online, and it does 60 damage, but again, that weakness will come into play. It will be able to take this Metacham off the board, but first they're going to put down the Giant Cape as well, adding an additional 20 health to the Drifblim, taking up to 120, but this Balloon Strike getting the first point for the Constrictors here in this game 1 of our best of 3 series. And regardless of the outcome of the first 2 games, as we always say, that 3rd game still counts towards the leaderboard, so every match here counts as the Marchoke moves into the active spot for the Rumbles. The Rumbles do pull the Marchant, but the Marchoke has only just gotten its first energy, and it does require 2 energy. The Marchant with this power press does require 3, but it has 150 health, so they may be trying to hope that they can buy themselves a bit of time. And I think I might have just said that it only requires 3 energy, it only requires 2. But the Unknown has been pulled for the Constrictors, and it has that check ability as well, where it can check the top card of either the opposing deck or their own. They do get the choice, but they are going to get a first of 2 required energy onto the Cresselia. They're going to go for the check, probably hoping for that Togepi if they check their own, and that is what they do, and that is what is waiting for them on their next turn. This is fantastic for the Constrictors. They have everything they need, but the Balloon Strike will continue, and again it gets that weakness coming into play, so 80 damage. One more of these and Marchant will be wiped off the board. And we do see the Hitmonchan coming online because they do need a benched Pokemon. If there is an empty bench and the active Pokemon is eliminated, the opposing team immediately wins, but this Marchant is going to go for 70 damage on to the Drifblim. If it had an additional 2 energy on it, it actually would have taken Drifblim off the board because it gets an extra 50 damage with that power press. But here is the Togepi now in hand for the Constrictors. They immediately move that onto the bench as well, and they do get that first energy onto it. They are hoping to have that Togekiss set up just in case, try and maximize that damage, as again they're going with the check, and it's going to be the second Togepi waiting for them as well, but they do have a full bench, as the Drifblim is going to wipe this Marchant off the table, and Hitmonchan is just left all by itself. This is not good for the Rumbles and this Cobble Breakers deck in game 1. Everything is going the Constrictors' way at the moment. And it is looking like the Rumbles will have to regroup as they get their second Machamp in hand. And there is the first of 3 required energy onto the Hitmonchan, but this Drifloon can take it out in 2. Second Togepi has been pulled. Again, the Constrictors are in full control as they move the Togetic on to that Togepi. They're going for the check again just in case. They want to cover all bases. They want to maximize their damage as well. That counts toward the leaderboard, as do the points here. And so far the Rumbles have not taken a single point here in game 1 as the Balloon Strike continues from this Drifloon. Another 80 damage. Hitmonchan is left with 10 health remaining as the Rumbles do pull the Mars. Surely they're going to play that. It will make the Constrictors have to shuffle their hand back into their deck, and they get to pull 1 card because that is how many points that the Constrictors need, and they get the Togetic. There's no Togekiss now for the Constrictors to capitalize on. The Rumbles moving that second Hitmonchan onto the bench. Maybe they're trying to buy themselves a bit of time here, and it looks like that is what they're going to do. They're going to go for the retreat. This may actually be a bad play because the Constrictors can maximize their damage now throughout this match, whereas the Rumbles, nothing is going their way as the second Togekiss, as the Togekiss has been pulled once again for the Constrictors. It is immediately moved onto the bench. And that check continues from the unknown, continuing to check their own deck. There is the second Drifloon waiting to be pulled. But again, everything is going right for this Celestic Dream deck. They are living the dream. They are going to retreat the Drifloon. They're moving that Togekiss onto the active spot. This Overdrive Smash does 60, but in the coming turn, it will, well, it does 80 thanks to the weakness, but it will do an additional 60 damage thanks to the follow-up. But the Team Rocket Grunt has been pulled for the Rumbles. They're going to use that, try and get in the energy off of this Togekiss. They need to flip their heads. As soon as they get a Tails, it will stop. They get 1 heads. They only get 1 though. It's going to take 1 energy off the Togekiss, but they needed to get at least 2. They get another energy onto the Hitmonchan, but there is nothing else they can do. The Drifloon is pulled, but it is the energy being moved onto the Togekiss. No time for checking. They're going straight for this Overdrive Smash. 140 damage. An absolute powerful display here from the Constrictors. The Rumbles should just be grateful there wasn't still a Cynthia in hand for that Celestic Dream deck to do more damage, as we will go into a game 2 after a board reset. And this time going first, it is going to be the Distortion World deck for the Constrictors, and they are going to move that only basic Pokemon, the Clefairy, into the active spot. The Rumbles, they've got the Regirock. You can see the Gliscor and the Cranidos in hand for that Cranidos, that they do need that Skull Fossil, but they do have the Professor's Research for thinning that deck, as the Constrictors are going first. They won't be able to generate an energy, but they do pull the Gengar. No Ghastly in hand yet, and we need to keep in mind that Exoskeleton ability of the Regirock, as the second Gliscor has been pulled for the Rumbles. They play that Professor's Research, and it does get them the Giant Cape and the Rampardos, but that Exoskeleton ability that we're about to touch on causes damage taken by Regirock to be weakened by 20 points. This is fantastic for the Rumbles as the Constrictors pull that Pokeball. They're going to get a basic Pokemon, probably hoping for a Ghastly. Instead, they do get a Rotom, who they are immediately going to move on to the bench. They can evolve the Clefairy into the Clefable, but it still requires 3 energy. So for that Moonblast to do that 60 damage, they get 1 of the 3 required energy onto this Clefable, and they will just be left to have to end their turn as the Rumbles pull the Rocky Helmet. So they've got both their Pokemon tools in hand. They move the Rocky Helmet though onto the Regirock, trying to make the Constrictors reluctant to do damage. This Regirock requires 3 damage for this Boulder Crush, but it does 100. It could wipe this Clefable off in one go, as another Pokeball for the Constrictors, getting another basic Pokemon out of this deck. And it's a second Clefairy this time, so they can get that Clefairy onto the bench, but first they get an energy onto that Clefable. It requires 1 more, but before that can happen, Regirock will be getting its 3rd energy. And we do see that second Professor's Research from the Rumbles being pulled, and they immediately play it. They get the Skull Fossil. They get both Skull Fossils. With that Professor's Research, they do move one of them onto there, as we can see that Championship Flare shining on the Rumbles cards here. And they are looking at that Cranidos. They're going through their hand, thinking about what they want to do. They get that 3rd energy onto the Regirock here. This is actually a really good setup, because this deck wants to buy its time. If it's got the Regirock, it wants to go fast. If it's got the Rampardos, the Constrictors pulling their own Rocky Helmet, and they are going to get that second Clefable online. This active Clefable though cannot outlast a hit from the Regirock, but still they are going to move a third energy onto it for this Moonblast. It will do 60 damage, causing Clefable to take negative 30 damage on the next turn. So in fact, it may actually be able to outlast a hit from this Regirock because it only does 100 damage. And that Rocky Helmet will bring Clefable down to 80 as Clefable gets its own Rocky Helmet in the process. But again, this 60 damage, it does become 40 when it targets the Regirock thanks to that Exoskeleton ability. But Clefable will take 30 less damage on the next turn. And the Rumbles pull their Hitmonlee, immediately moving that onto the bench as well. It only requires 1 energy for that kick that does 30 damage, but there's the 4th energy onto the Regirock as the Cranidos is going to be put onto that Skull Fossil as well. And as we mentioned earlier, that Rampardos is already in hand. As the Pokemon Center Lady is played, it is going to restore 30 health for the Regirock, getting it back up to 110. And here comes the Boulder Crush. It only does 72 Clefable on this occasion, and if Clefable does go for the Moonblast this time onto the Regirock, again it will only do 40 damage, but the Rocky Helmet will actually take Clefable out of this match. So this is great for the Rumbles with where they're positioned here in Game 2 as they hope to take it to a Game 3. That second Clefable now getting the Giant Cape, so its health is taken up to 120, and this Moonblast though, it is going to do that 40 damage to the Regirock. But again, the Rocky Helmet takes the Clefable out of this match, and the Rumbles with this Grand Underground deck will get the first point over the Distortion World deck. The Constrictors do move the Rotom into the active spot as the Rumbles pull their second Cranidos. They've got that second Skull Fossil in hand as the Rampardos does come online. It does 130 damage with that Head Smash, but if it does eliminate an opposing Pokemon, it also does take that recoil damage as it does get that one and only energy that is required. The Boulder Crush though, 70 damage, enough to take out the Rotom in one go, and already the Rumbles have 2 points here in Game 2. This is terrible for the Constrictors. They are totally out of their depth here with this Distortion World deck going up against the Grand Underground. The Team Rocket Grunt though has been pulled for the Constrictors. This is the chance they need to swing it back. They need to flip 4 consecutive heads. As soon as it tails, it will stop. They get 1. They only get 1 though, so this is only going to eliminate 1 energy from the Regirock, and the Clefable only has 2 energy on it, so it cannot even go on the offensive. And at this point, the Constrictors can only send it back over to the Rumbles, who pull their second Hitmonlee. And they are going to retreat the Regirock. They are not concerned with getting an energy onto a card. They're just going to go for this Head Smash to end this game and take Clefable off the board, giving the Rumbles Game 2. And we are going to a Game 3 between these two decks, but we do see that recoil damage onto the Rampardos before that can happen. And this is our final game in this series. As we said, best of 3, and this one is going down to the very last game. And going first this time, it is going to be that Rapid Spin Kick deck, of the Rumbles. They move the Phanpy into the active spot. They've got the Flamigo and the Riolu. The Constrictors playing with that Red Chain deck. They've got the Uxie and the Mesprit. They do move that Uxie into the active spot. That Mesprit does also require the Azelf as well as the Uxie to be on the bench to do that 160 damage. And if it does, it also has to discard all the energy on it as that Pokeball is pulled for the Rumbles. They are going to play that before they play that Professor's Research, getting them the Hitmontop as well. They have options of what they want to put on this bench, and they've already got a Lucario in hand. They get a Flamigo and they get the second Phanpy with the Professor's Research as well. They are going to immediately move that Riolu onto the bench. They want that Lucario online as quick as possible. It does allow its fellow fighting type cards to do an extra 20 damage. The Hitmontop coming online as well. And with Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, they only have 70 health each as well, as it is the Pokemon Communications being pulled for the Constrictors. They play the Professor's Research and they get the Azelf plus the Rocky Helmet already in hand. They've got the trio to set up this Red Chain perfectly, and with that Mind Boost, it does do 20 damage to the opposing Pokemon, but it also generates a Psychic Energy that they can get onto Mesprit there. So we see that 1 required energy onto the Uxie, Mind Boost, as we said, 20 damage onto the Vampy, bringing it down to 40 health, and they get to choose where they want to move that energy, choosing Mesprit. Again, it does require 3, but with that quick setup, it can be online very fast as the X speed is pulled for the Melemele Rumbles. But there it is, the Lucario on line as well, allowing other fighting type Pokemon on their side to do an extra 20 damage. And they're thinking about where they want to move this fighting energy, choosing to go with the Vampy. It will do 40 with this rollout, already halving the health of the Uxie, but with that Rocky Helmet, it will bring Vampy down to 20 health, which frees up Uxie to actually wipe Vampy off the board as the Dusknoir has been pulled for the Constrictors as well. If they can get that online, it does allow them to move around damage taken from their teammates to the Dusknoir, but another Mind Boost wipes this Vampy off the board, and the Constrictors take 0.1 here in Game 3 as they've already got 3 energy onto that Mesprit as well, and the Rumbles really need to think about how they want to approach this. They are going with the Hitmontop. It does require 2 energy for that spinning attack, which does 50 damage. But with that Lucario there, as well as the second Riolu comes online, it does do 70 damage, so it can take out each of those 3 with 1 attack each. But again, Hitmontop needs 2 energy, so instead they're going to get an energy onto the Flamigo, who with that double kick, if they get a heads, it does 1. It does 50. If they get 2 heads, it does 100 damage. And again, that Lucario on the bench as the Rumbles are thinking about how they want to approach this. They send it back over to the Constrictors, who pull the Celestic Town Elder, who can pull a random Pokemon card from the discard pile. But for the Constrictors, there's no Pokemon in their discard pile yet, as they get a first energy onto the Azelf. And they are going to continue with these Mind Boosts onto the Hitmontop, another 40 damage. This time they get a second energy onto the Azelf as the Pokeball is pulled for the Rumbles. They can get a basic Pokemon out of their deck, but their bench is already full as they do pull the Hitmontop. And there it is, that second energy onto the Flamigo. They're immediately going for the X speed, so they can retreat this Hitmontop for 0 cost. Now, moving the Flamigo, they just need to get 1 heads to wipe this Uxie off the board. They're unaware though of the Celestic Town Elder in hand of the Constrictors. Here's the double kick. They need at least 1 of these 2 to be a heads. They get a tails. They get 1 heads, so Uxie is taken off the board, and the Rumbles are able to get a point here in Game 3, but not before that Rocky Helmet does do 20 recoil damage to the Flamigo. Now the Constrictors need to think about how they want to play this, but very quickly they do move that Mesprit into the active slot, and they are going to pull a Pokeball, so they will be able to get a basic Pokemon out of their deck as well. It'll be very interesting to see who they get. They get the Duskull. They've got that Pokemon communication in hand as well, but first they are going to move the Duskull onto the bench. They're going to play the Celestic Town Elder. They know the 1 card they're getting. It is the Uxie. They are going to move that onto the bench, and this Mesprit 160 damage plus the weakness, but not before that Giant Cape is put onto it to take its health to 90. But again, 160 plus the weakness, 180 damage to wipe this Flamigo off the board. This is fantastic for this red chain deck. We've not seen it set up so well so far this season, but it is working for the Constrictors here against the Rumbles. And it is going to be that Riolu moved into the active spot for the Rumbles as the Giant Cape is pulled, and they immediately move that onto the Riolu, trying to buy themselves a little bit of time here in this match. They still require 2 points. The Constrictors only need 1 more. They go for the jab. It's going to do 40 damage to the Mesprit, bringing it down to 50 health. They still need to pull a second Lucario though, as the Azelf, that second Azelf is pulled for the Constrictors, a first energy onto the Mesprit after having to discard them all. They are going to move that Uxie back into the active spot though. It can go for the Mind Boost, but first they're going to play that Cyrus that's been in that hand as well. They drag that Hitmontop back into the active spot, and Uxie is going to be the one to land the finishing blow, and the Constrictors are able to take down the reigning champions. They do get to put an energy on the Mesprit as a little bit of celebration there, but the Constrictors have taken down the reigning champions to give them their first loss of the season, and this will move the Constrictors up to 8th place, as next round they are going up against the Olivine Raiders, whereas for the Rumbles they stay in 2nd, but next round they are going up against the top placed Petalburg Razors. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.